Welcome to Moonlit Conversations with Hearts, Minds, and Families. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed. We hope you enjoy the episode. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing support and friendships as it has to do with parenting. I asked on my closed Instagram, and Seema asked on her open Instagram, just some questions so that we can get the conversation going and to see where a lot of parents are at in regards to getting support and whether they felt supported when they had their first child and whether they feel supported now, and then what does that mean to be supported, and we'll discuss it. What kind of responses did you get, Seema?
So, as far as whether or not people felt supported when they first had kids, most people said no. There
Yeah.
were a few people who did say yes, and if I messaged them and asked them who, a lot of times it was like supportive mothers, sisters. A lot of people have sisters who are super supportive, and that was generally if they had that strong support system at home. Those are the ones that responded yes. But most people did not feel like they had a good support system when they first became parents.
Yeah, I agree. I
Um,
got the same kind of responses as well.
Yeah, but I think, but that changed for, I asked, do you now feel like you found your tribe? And I explained that a tribe is a group of either family or friends who support you and encourage you and give you the freedom to vent without judgment. And it was closer to half and half. I think still about 60% of people almost said no. But that percentage went up for people who felt like they do at least have it now after being a parent for a few years for the most part. So I think that indicates that it takes a little bit of time to kind of find your people.
Right.
Um, but in order to find your people, you kind of have to learn what it is you're looking for in someone. And so I got a lot of responses for that too, but I'm curious to know, Shanila, did you post?
I didn't post on there, but I work with a lot of new moms. So as a Leche League leader, we get calls from new moms for breastfeeding support. And when we used to host meetings in person, and every month, like every city has somebody where you can just go drop in, and they have it's a support group. That's what it is, a mother to mother support. And a lot of pregnant women would come too, with the first time moms to be, and they were the ones that were getting support. But the thing is that a lot of people who feel like they didn't get support, they didn't think they needed support.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we have this thing where, everybody's going to tell you what to do. So then they're just like, you know what, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. I want to do it my way. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do or say. So the negative thing is that sometimes that closes people off to getting support, and then they don't feel supported because they never set up a support system before they had the first baby, or they thought maybe, my family's, they're going to just support me, but that wasn't really defined. So then we had a lot of, maybe there were expectations, maybe we didn't know what we need in a support system. So some people who take a certain kind of birthing class, I think like the Bradley method, for example, they go through this 12-week program, and one of the weeks they have to form a support group. So, and they talk about who your support is, what it is, and what to look for in people who are going to support you. And they have to actually, they have a checklist of all the people that they would have in their tribe. So before the baby even comes, they kind of have this whole list of people who to go to for what.
It's
two
funny
people each.
that you say
So
that though,
that's
because
pretty.
I feel like that was me. Like I was like, I just want to do it my way. But it's because I didn't trust anybody. Like nobody
Yeah,
had proven to be, like
yeah,
um
exactly.
worthy of being in that support group kind of thing. Like I didn't know who to trust in that specific situation. So it was hard. So I was like, you know what, I don't know what advice to take or who to take it from. So I'm just gonna do this my way because there's so many conflicting, stories that I'm hearing and things that I'm hearing, and I don't like the way she said this and I don't like the way she said that. So I'm just gonna lock myself in my room and take care of my baby. And that's what I did. And it was really hard. It was
Very
really hard.
isolating.
It was very isolating. And then, in the birth story episode, we talked about birth stories, and just, it was difficult physically, And with so many things that came about unexpectedly. And so to not have anybody to lean on other than my husband was hard. It wasn't enough.
So the some people that I talked to later after they had their baby and they felt, you know, like there's nobody to support me, or they would come later on to our meetings, maybe after a couple of months. Um, you know, it was almost as if like, you know what, I did everything on my own. Nobody was there for me. But then the other flip side of it is that, well, you didn't want anybody to be there. You wanted to do it yourself. So you don't get to do both things where it's like you don't play victim, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, nobody was there for me, but then you didn't want anybody there. You wanted to do it yourself. You didn't want anybody to drop off meals, you know, and it's like, well, I didn't want to be a burden. And it's kind of like already we 3 days into motherhood and we already feel like that. Yeah. Where we have to do it all ourselves. Who said that? You know, or to prove ourselves. Why do we even feel that way when we've just been a mom for 3 days?
Why do we feel that way? What do you guys think? Why do a lot of parents feel like they have to be, you know, do everything for themselves right off the bat?
I don't know. I think
because there's a lot of cultures that like they shower the mom with care and love and stuff when she has the baby, and our society is not like that.
You know, but I mean, okay, so for me personally, it's like postpartum played a role because it became like, oh, people are feeding me and whatever, but they're all coming, they want to hold my baby, they want to do things, and it's like I don't want that. I feel like if they're giving me things and helping me, I have to give them the opportunity to like be a part of this, and like I don't really want that. It's like, just help me and go away. But people don't do that. They want to help and they want to be a part of it and they want to hang out, and I just wasn't feeling like it. I didn't want to have people around. I didn't want, so those just it was hard for me to set boundaries. So in order for me to just feel protected, I was just like, okay, nobody come near me. I'm just gonna lock myself away, and I don't want anybody to come near me.
Were you served meals?
I was served meals because we lived in my in-laws' basement.
So my did you get sleep? Cooking. Did you get sleep?
No, I did not.
You had sleep because you had the baby all the time. By your choice, you kept the baby with you.
Yeah, I insisted on it. But you know, again, with how I wasn't able to see her for the first few days after she was born. That was just like the pendulum swing the other way of just I'm never gonna not see her again. Like I'm just gonna hold her next to me always.
Did it change for the second and third time? The experience, did it change?
Which part of it? Like the
resting and reviving, the healing part. Like the first time it was very traumatic.
Well,
the second and third time.
The healing for the second was really good. That was fine. The birth, everything went really well. Like I had to get an amniocentesis for my second one. So like after that, I really started taking it easy and whatever. But the labor and everything was fine. She was fine, and we got home okay. But my wanting to like shelter my kids and hang on to them and have nobody near me, and just for me again to just kind of be locked away with my children. I didn't want visitors. I didn't want people coming to see me. I just wanted to be alone with my baby. But I also had such a hard time breastfeeding. So I'm constantly like taking myself out and trying to feed her everywhere, and people are coming over, and it's all I can think about is trying to take care of the children. And so I tend to, when I'm overwhelmed, isolate and kind of just like retreat back into myself. Like just before we got on, I was talking about like I just haven't been posting on Instagram very much lately. Like whenever I start to feel overwhelmed, I just kind of isolate.
So maybe for you, support looked like dropping off a meal and leaving. That's support. Not sticking around. So that is, and everybody probably needs something different. Like when we had our first, I didn't know how it was going to be. So I said, I don't want anybody coming to the hospital. And because my first one was at the hospital, I said, I don't want anybody coming in. And then later we sent an email saying for 2 weeks later, like maybe like 7 or 8 days later, we said, the baby would love to meet you. And just to our family. Yeah. And we set a date and time for certain hours that we were going to host people. And it wasn't at my house, it was at my mom's. And it was on certain time. The timing that wasn't like lunch or dinner. It was in between. so they know that they only have like a 2-3 hour window. So, to set that boundary. And because I didn't know how it was going to be. I didn't know if I'm going to have to go and nurse and, and if in the beginning it was just going to be hard. I figured, and I'm still learning. So I wanted that time. But I remember my husband saying, well, when we were coming home from the hospital, he said, I want the baby to come to our home. And I'm like, I want to go to my mom's. And he's like, no, the first, like, he was just like, I want the baby to know the smell of our house. And so that night I said, okay, let's go home. And then the next day, maybe I'll go to my mom's. And that was the worst night ever. It's like, well, you can't help me. You need help yourself. And he was kind of like, well, people can come and I'll help. I'll serve them. I'm like, no, you're going to, and then after the first night, he was really like, yeah, we'll go to your mom and he can rest at home and then he can come and help when he can, because he was tired too. He was up all night with me. So how is he going to help me? He's just tired. And so finally, when I went to my mom's, then it was just like my cousin was there and I was getting served meals. I was there for a couple of weeks. And it was just, the only thing I had to do was nurse the baby and sleep and do, and eat. And I was getting meals served to me, in my room. So that was really nice to have that. But beforehand, and the thing is about support is that we have to know what we need or want. And sometimes in the first one, we don't know what we want or what we need. But I did, because I took a couple of classes before I had the baby. Then I knew, like, on one of the sheets of paper, it said your support group, your personal support. And whoever the teacher is, the instructor, she tells the people who take the classes that, this is, here's some support group numbers, and it's a good idea to contact them before you have the baby. So then when you have the baby, they kind of know you kind of understand what to do. So then they'll be more accommodating to you. So it was nice because I did that. So then when I had breastfeeding issues or questions, I would call them and they came over. A lactation consultant just came over because I knew them. So I had kind of made that that connection with them, beforehand, or somebody else for other things, and for just different things that I would need, or like a friend who, she was like, if you ever need to talk to somebody like at night, because I'm up late. So if you ever need to talk to somebody late, then you can call me. So I had her number written down there just in case. So after like 4 or 5 days, I just gave her a call because I was up at night and everybody was also asleep, so these kinds of things that I realized that I have to do. And it's only because I took that one class and that nurse told me that you're going to do yourself a favor and set up your whole support system before you have the baby. And so then I got to pick and choose who I wanted in there. But that's really not the case for most people, because I feel like Seema said, it's like you get so much conflicting information, you don't know what to do. Yeah. And then a part of it is kind of like, we have this fantasy where of how we think it's going to be. And it's going to be like this. And sometimes that's not the reality, and things happen, and unexpected things that happen, then it just throws you all off.
How did it go when you were setting that boundary to tell like family? Because nobody came to the hospital, like grandparents.
Just my mom, or like my mom, my dad, and my brother. They just came for a little bit.
How did you stop people?
I know.
No, but there was no stopping. I mean, I didn't have to stop anybody. That's what we said. And like,
people didn't listen to me.
I know. I was like,
no, it was my husband's family, because in my family, it's only my immediate family lives here.
Gotcha.
So, but it was my husband's family. And so he set that boundary. Yeah. That's the key. So he set the boundary. One of his cousins did come by. Maybe like 2 of them came by for like less than 5 minutes. That's it. Just to say, like it was like less than 5 minutes. So they knew that, okay, and they called him like, oh, we still want to come. We're just going to come for like 3-4 minutes. Is that okay? And then I said, yeah. And they waited outside until, I was done, or, they could come in, and that's it. And then I was able to have that time to settle in. And then they came to my parents' house at the time that we told them. But it was my husband setting that limit, that boundary, you know, because it's his family.
Yeah. Yeah. And Smears had tried also. People just showed up and fought their way in.
Right, yeah, and just stayed. Just
Yeah.
stayed as
Yeah.
long. I remember
Hard.
when I had the twins, my oldest brother came and he was just like he hung out for a while and then was like, "Hey, what do you guys have to eat?" And I'm like, "You're supposed to bring me food. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. And I think it's a new thing because we, even when like I had one of my other kids, and it was after my mom passed away. So even though I did go to her house, you know, my dad was there, but I remember somebody saying, you know, they want to come by, or just actually a friend of mine saying that, okay, well, what do you need? Do you want a meal train? So they set up a meal train, and so that's when people saw me when they came to drop off the food or something. You know, so they had different people signed up for different things, and when one of my friends came by, she said, "What can I do?" And I said, "You can put the clothes in the laundry." So it took me to say that, you know, like, "Oh, do you need anything?" I'm like, "Actually, I do. Can you feed the kids?" "Oh, actually, I do. When you come, can you just put the clothes in the washer and dryer?" And she's like, "Okay." So it took me asking them. No one's gonna come and do it for me. I have to, if they ask, say, "Do you need anything?" And everybody says that, right? "Do you need anything?" I didn't say no, it's okay. I think I'm okay. No, I said I do need something actually.
Oh, I admire you so much,
I
Shamila. Like, mashallah, like I can't. I don't know how to do this. I need to be a grown up. What are you thinking about, Aram?
Oh, I just got very overwhelmed because this is a very American story. This is nowhere near a Desi person story, and we cannot even fathom that kind of boundary, and we do not get that. And we hang on to every kindness that we are perceiving that this is kindness,
Yeah.
and no matter how hurtful it is, we're just saying thank you. And it's not that it's all bad. There are there are a lot of good moments, but there's so much pain, and it's a blur. And when we don't teach ourselves, and we don't have the people who love us unconditionally, or I'm so sorry.
No.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
It's okay.
It wasn't bad. It's just it was so painful, and nobody understood how painful it was. And I had no concept of standing up for myself, or of saying, "This is hurting me, stop." I just remember saying thank you to everybody. "You are feeding me, thank you." I was the one who was awake at night. Nobody. I just said thank you.
And I think that comes, we talked about that before, right? Like you grow up and everybody is, you're always constantly comparing, like, well, you be grateful for what you have and you be grateful for, you know, everything. And, you know, at least you have this, it could be this bad, it could be that bad. And while that's all true, it doesn't mean that you can't want things a certain way and that you can have your own boundaries. And I think that that's a big part of culture that really needs to change, because I think that falls heavily on women too, to be polite and to be kind and to just say thank you and kind of just shut up and take what comes your way. If other people, like, depending on what their intentions are, you accept it for the intention, but intention is not always the same as impact. And that's something that I try to teach the kids. You know, that's fine, your intention was good, but your impact was not. And that's what's most important. So we're going to deal with the impact that you had now, and understand that sometimes those two things don't align, but never apologize for crying, because
Right.
your emotions are 100% valid. And it's so amazing that you were able to feel so deeply. You never have to apologize for crying.
Yeah, it's because, like I'm telling you, there are so many good moments as well. I
Of
mean,
course.
there were so many good moments. There was so much love. There was so much, but I think what overwhelmed me was when you expect from people to know you, love you, and understand you just because they're around you. It doesn't work like that. And in Chanel's story, I know it took her 8 years to become that parent. It is an absolute must. It's a right to do the things, that she studied and she learned, and she was helping mothers already before becoming a mother herself. I became a mother right away. 6 months I was pregnant. And I wanted that for myself. And I am happy about it. I'm like, alhamdulillah, because I would have gone mad otherwise. But I was just so unaware of the fact that there are things that I need. I did not know. I did not study. Nobody told me. You just go with the flow. And at that moment, and because you're in that moment, you have no option. You just go in the flow. I think
Yeah, because what are
after
you
so
gonna do?
many.
Fight? You just had a baby. Like,
And you don't have time to research anything. Like, is this a normal feeling that I'm having? Is this okay? What are my options for this? Because you're exhausted.
Exactly. SubhanAllah. I think I maybe I felt anger more than anything at like why did I not think that I'm the first person to take care of myself? Why was that such a big problem? But then who was going to listen?
and I think at some point too, for me anyway, it's like I ex- I expect people to understand, like, you had a baby. How did you want, like, did you want people all in your face? But then I think a lot of people are like, well, this is what happened to me, so this is just
Right.
this is what we're supposed to do. Like my sister's friend had a baby, and I was like, please don't go visit her. Please just drop something off for her, and just leave her alone. And she's like, but I really want to see the baby. I'm like, don't go. I'm like, don't do it. Just give her some time, give her some space. On top of that, it's a pandemic. You don't know how she feels about, don't put her in a position where she has to tell you, please don't come. Just offer to drop it off and leave, and then see how she reacts and what she wants. And then her friend ended up asking her, like, hey, when are you going to come by? So I'm like, okay, that's different. That's what she wants, or leaving it in her hands. But I was hoping that other mothers would know the feeling and then just give me space, because I'm sure that they would have wanted space. But I don't know. Not everybody does.
Nene, it's exactly because, like I'm saying, I know that Mariam had it hard. I know we've already discussed our bird stories,
Yeah.
but I think what happened was, even in Mariam's case, your case, my case, and not in Shanina's case, was nobody put us before themselves.
It's true.
You should.
Everybody made this baby that came into the world about them and not about the mom and the baby. It was always about my relationship with that baby, because I tried to set boundaries with like grandparents and stuff. And I was told, my husband was told, your wife is so rude to tell me not to wake up the baby. Because the thing is that like they would come over whenever they felt like it, and they would wake him up after I spent so much time. And like my oldest, I couldn't breastfeed him. I didn't have the support to breastfeed him. I ended up giving him formula, and then he was lactose intolerant, so he would scream all through the night, and I didn't know why, and the doctors didn't know why. And then one day I was just like, I saw lactose intolerant formula, and I was like, let me try it, and he ended up being fine. But for those 3 months or so, he was a nightmare all the time. And I would get him to sleep at any time, and I would just want him to sleep. And then people would come when they wanted to,
Yeah.
and want to wake him up because they want to hold him. And they just make it about themselves and not about me. And if I try to set a boundary, then they make that about themselves.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do, I think, with our mentality. This is our progeny. That is what they're thinking. Honestly, this is our progeny. This is our blood.
Yeah.
You're going to kill the parent in that process, but yeah.
And it's just like, they're overwhelmed with joy. Like, oh, it's a baby. It's a baby. Yeah, there's also a new mother. There's also a
Right.
new parent here. There's a whole system of things happening here. It's not just the baby. The baby didn't just randomly appear, but people just don't.
I find it so bad. I mean, like in Pakistani culture, even in the places that are so modern, their concept is when the woman gets pregnant, and especially in the last month, she's supposed to go to her mother's house, and the mother's parents are supposed to pay for the birth and the hospital bills, and the mother's parents are supposed to take care, especially. And after 40 days, then the woman comes back to the husband's house. It's a bad culture. I don't agree with that culture. I mean, but in a sense, if the husband's house is not going to take care of that mother, that woman actually is getting 40 days of peace of mind.
Yeah. From people that she knows, and
Yeah.
she knows how to navigate the relationship, if the relationship is healthy.
He can simply say, like, I can imagine myself, I could just simply say, just shut up, get lost. I don't want to see anybody's faces, and nobody's going to hate me for that, and nobody's going to judge me for that, and they're going to say she's just going through postpartum. It's completely
Right,
okay.
Yeah.
My younger sister was here with me at the first delivery. My mom was working in Abu Dhabi, and so I'm like, Kiran, my sister, she had finished her 12th grade exams, and she was visiting me, and she stayed 6 months with me. She was a kid. And when I used to get those tantrums, she was the first one to say, I think you have postpartum depression. I said, you read a lot of internet, shut up. Can you imagine, like, how, subhanallah.
But I think those things shape us, no matter how prepared you are, no matter how much support you have, you're still going to be tired, overwhelmed. You're going to be feeling drained. That's part of it. That's part of the rite of passage to motherhood.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're going to go through labor. You're going to feel the pain. You can't not feel the pain. That's part of it.
Yeah.
So in the postpartum, those things are part of it. And that's what makes us stronger. And it's supposed to make us more confident if we have the right support around us, or show us parts of us that we didn't know existed before. And I think that's so powerful. And there's wisdom behind that, because Allah doesn't give us more than we can handle. So whether we looked at that consciously and like, okay, I really need to do something different, or we take all that and then we assess it and then we try to become better in whichever way. And it may take years and years to do that.
Yeah.
And especially with postpartum, like I was so blessed to be able to just go to my mom's, and it was just a relaxed place. No one's telling me what to do. No one's saying anything. No one's commenting. My mom wasn't really able to breastfeed. She couldn't help me. So she didn't have anything to say,
Yeah.
So then I would have to bring my own support. But sometimes things that they did say, it was magnified. Maybe they just made one comment and it just seemed like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
like I can't believe you said that. So it was gonna put up with that, and a lot of times the other person, they take it personally, and then it becomes about them again.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should know that this time, let them do their own thing. But a lot of moms who didn't have support and they struggle, part of it is that, then you can, me or anybody else can help them. But like there was a mom who said that, no one said that a certain part of it was going to be so hard. And so I was thinking, I'm just like, I remember before when this person was expecting, they said that, you know what, I don't want to think about breastfeeding or anything else right now. So then, and after the baby came, they're like, oh my gosh, that other part that I was thinking so much about, that was like not that big of a deal. It passed, but now no one told me about breastfeeding. But it was kind of like, well, you didn't want to know about it before, and nobody wanted to push and be like, hey, you really need to learn about this. So, it's let me tell you about this. They were not open to that. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you weren't open to it, and then you said, how come nobody told me? You didn't want to know.
I don't know.
A part of it is like it's just such a new thing that it doesn't matter how much you can never be prepared. Like this is something that it's kind of like basketball. No matter how much you watch it and all the moves and all the drills, is not the same thing as you going on, stepping out in the court and trying to make a 3-pointer and failing the first time.
Yeah. That's true. SubhanAllah, today I think I was just overwhelmed as well, because I spoke with somebody on the phone. Of course, I have those free consultation calls, and this woman, she calls me, and she's in Pakistan right now, and she said when her third child came in, something changed, and she said, I did not know what it was, and I used to pull my hair out, and I used to beat my husband, and I used to beat myself, and I did not have any support system. And when I went to the doctor, they said, "Oh, it will just pass." Nobody even used the word postpartum depression. I had high fever right after the delivery when I came home, but the doctor said, "You're fine. Nothing is wrong with you." And I just kept getting crazier and crazier, and I thought, I should just leave my husband and go to Pakistan and do it all by myself. And that's what I did. And then later on, uh, I used to hit my kids so much that I felt as if I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill myself and I'm going to kill them. And that's when I said, I need help. So she did not seek help. And now her child is that same child, that same person. The baby, the child is 3 years old. The child is 3 years old. And
Sounds
now
like she
she's
did
seeking
try.
help.
It sounds like she did try to seek help, but they kind of brushed it off.
In the beginning, yes, and then they did not know. And subhanallah, I was like amazed. I said, what about your mother? She said that she wasn't close by. What about your mother-in-law? She wasn't close by. What about sister? I said, don't you have friends? And the friend said, you need to pray more. You're not praying enough, and you need to pray more. And that woman, she started depression medication, and then people said, no, it's because you have asar of jinn, and so you
Oh my
need to do that.
gosh.
And she stopped medication.
Oh my gosh.
You know, the people will make up any excuse for somebody to not be mentally ill. As if in our
Literally.
religion, they don't talk about mentally ill people. As if in our religion, that's never mentioned, that somebody could be mentally ill. It's always, you didn't read enough Quran, you're not praying enough, your relationship with Allah is not good, you have a jinn. If all of that other stuff is not right, you have a jinn in you.
Right.
It's only when she was threatening her child, and really, like she said, I knew that I was going to do something bad to her. I was telling her, I'm going to kill you today. She said, I caught my thought. And I called the doctor and I said, I need to see you now. I need to come in. And she went in and she went back on medication.
And that gave me goosebumps.
And her husband keeps telling her, oh, you need to become more he's loving, he's caring, but again, he is not understanding that she has changed. Maybe she's bipolar. Wallahu alam, something has happened, something inside has broken. And her pain was that he keeps telling her, you need to be consistent about things and you need to be more organized. And I said, you can't do it. Don't you realize you have changed? Something has broken. And it cannot be fixed in the same way. It will always have crack now. You need to educate yourself. You need to find a tribe. I said, do you have Facebook? She said, yes. I said, do you have Instagram? She said, yes. I said, go and search, Google bipolar disorder, depression disorder, postpartum disorder. Find the kind of people that you need to hear from. Take their support, because nobody is helping her.
And a lot of people will have that, right? Like somebody came to me for coaching and she's like, I do this and this and this and this, and listed this whole long list of things that she does. And then she's like, I just want to be more patient. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, is this a new thing? You just want to be more patient starting today? You've never felt like this before? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, something has to change. You're not going to be able to maintain everything exactly the same and then just sprinkle in patience now and be able to be patient. You have to actually adjust your life. You have to address the things in your life, because there's a reason why your limit for patience, your tolerance is low. I'm like, we have to address everything else so that we're able to make room for patience. Your life only has enough space for a certain amount of things. So that's what's reminding me. It reminded me from your story, Erin, because it's like, oh, you just have to do more. You can't do more. Right? Everybody's already doing the best they can. So what they have to do is address what's already going on and try to prioritize and remove things in order to make way for new things. But you can't just keep adding on and adding on. We don't work that way. Humans just cannot. There's only so many hours in the day. We only have, so much time to rest and recuperate and all of those things we need to take away before adding more. And that's what's being lost in society today, is everybody's just more and more and more and faster and quicker, and they want results so quickly, and that's just not the way that we work.
Right. That's like our conversation that we were having before we came on about how sometimes you just need to rest. It's not like hustle every day and every moment, and there's no time for slacking and everything. No, you need that. You are not a robot. You need that. Even computers need to update. So, and they need to recharge. So, like, people need to give other people a break.
Yeah.
I think one aspect of support that changed for me was that who sometimes who your friends aren't really the support that you need when you have a baby. So let's say you're doing things differently. Even in raising kids, you're doing things differently than your friend is. And sometimes you just kind of drift apart, and then you have new friends or new support systems. Like, for example, a lot of moms, when they need breastfeeding support, they join the La Leche League Facebook group, or they come to a meeting, and then they meet other moms there who are going through the same struggles as they are.
Yeah.
Versus maybe somebody at home who didn't have that struggle, or like, for example, I had that tribe, but then I asked other moms who are relatives. I remember I asked I told them something like, man, I'm having a really hard time breastfeeding. And they're like, why? Like, it was just so easy for them. They were like, what's wrong with you? Why? And it's like, don't ever say what's wrong with you to a mom, to a new mom.
That's what they're asking themselves all the time. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't need you echoing that.
Right.
So I am so grateful that I had that support, that this was, I was just saying this to this person was because I thought, she breastfed too. So maybe she could just be supportive, just kind of say, oh, hang in there, you're doing great. Except she didn't have that same experience. So then she just said, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then later on, she kind of came that like, oh, what's going on? And I was kind of like, it's okay.
Turned
like,
off already.
I have my support system. I thought maybe you could be in it, but it's okay. You don't have to be.
And that's the biggest thing. So the other question that I asked was, what do you look for in like mom friends? And everybody is looking for common ground and a space that's free of judgment. That was the top thing that came up, because everybody feels so judged, right? With comments like that, like, what's wrong with you? Or people who just come in like, well, my kid is great, and my kid does this, and my kid does that. And, and people don't help. I read this somewhere today or yesterday, and like, people can't help by only sharing the good, right? You can only help people by sharing the bad, I guess, or I don't remember how it was worded. But when you share your struggle and then teach and help, be like, hey, this is where I was, this is where I am, this is how you can get from here to there. And again, we talked about the whole advice thing when it's appropriate for that kind of information. But people don't want to feel judged. And I feel like this is why coaching right now is booming, right? There's life coaching, there's parent coaching, there's business coaching, because people are so afraid to just ask their friends and just ask the people around them, because there's this major fear of judgment and people being overly critical. So they're trying to find people who will not judge them and they can call and say, hey, what do I do? How do I handle this? And it's totally reasonable, because who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to feel safe and just expressing themselves? Because how can you find help if you don't have somebody to really truly tell your problems to?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's such a predicament. Like, we say that we're from a tribe and we want tribe, and today we live in an age where the tribe cannot be your blood or cannot be your relative. Not in majority of the cases, but overall, if we see that, like Shanila said, her friend, it wasn't her sister, because she doesn't have sisters, if just supposedly, right, or sister-in-law, but that friend was definitely very close to you, but when she did it, it just put you off. And right, in my case, it was like I had this sharp pain after I came back from the hospital. I was just trying to stand up, and because I had epidural, I just felt as if my back broke or something happened. And my threshold for pain is less, or at least at that point was too less, but it was pain. And I felt as I'm like, my back broke, like literally. I felt as, and I'm just like, and I started screaming my husband's name. And even before that, when the pangs and the contractions were happening, I was yelling, and what I was yelling was Allah, Allah. And at both the times, the people who were supposed to support me made fun of me. They laughed in my face. Where was the, like, I think that's why I cried, because I was still so thankful to them. Up until today, I have never been able to say, like, that was my weakest moment when you laughed in my face. But the thing is, again, coming back to this point, that the coaching, I don't trust the person. I will not trust that same person ever again. I'm not going to trust the other person who did this to me. I'm not going to trust the person who is so filled inside that before I start my story, they start pouring their story onto me. So yes, then we have to find people who we do not know, who we have never met, but they will at least give each other the space to hear. Like, why am I talking to Chanel, Mariam, and Seema every other week? Why is this? Why are we together? Because we never knew at least for me, we never knew each other. There was no judgment, and we just clicked. We were like, I'm safe with these three women. I found them this past not even 1 year. Like, Allahu Akbar. Do you see the what is it called, the deprivation that we have put ourselves in? Like, we're good humans, like Kasme, we are good humans, but I'm just not maybe a good support for my own sister or for my own sister-in-law or for my own, but I can be a good support to Seema, and I can be a good support to Mariam, and I can be a good support to Shanila. Why are women so cruel to the women that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put them in their lives to be close to? That's my frustration.
I think, with us three or with friends, certain friends, you have boundaries because you know that how you should be kind to them. But if our family and our relatives, they're the closest to us, then we should be even more kind to them. But culturally, we're the opposite. Yeah. We say whatever because what are they going to do? It's not like they're not going to be my cousin anymore, my friend, my aunt or my sister anymore. They're always going to be there. So then we just act like whatever. We don't appreciate them. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to do. And it's not about being more formal. It's about appreciating and respecting, just like you respect the stranger.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this is where we have to end the episode, but we would love for you to join the conversation with us. We will continue to discuss this topic in our next episode on March 24th.
All right, let's do that. All right, thank you, Iram, today for being so vulnerable. It's much appreciated, being so real. Thank you all for joining us tonight on Moonlit Conversations. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and find us on Instagram. All right, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.